The city was just beginning to wake up on a chilly morning. The streets buzzed with the sounds of honking cars, hurried footsteps, and the distant hum of construction. People bundled in coats and scarves moved briskly, their breaths visible in the frosty air. On a worn park bench near a bustling intersection, Jacob sat quietly, blending into the background of the busy urban scene. His clothes were tattered, layered against the cold, and his unshaven face carried the weight of countless sleepless nights. Beside him rested a weathered duffel bag, the seams frayed from years of use. It held everything he owned, what little he had left. Jacob's hands were clasped together, his gaze fixed on the ground. His demeanor was calm, almost resigned, but his eyes told a different story, a quiet sorrow, mixed with exhaustion. People passed by without a glance, their eyes avoiding him, as though acknowledging his presence might disrupt their day. For Jacob, this was just another morning, another day of survival in a city that seemed to move too fast to notice him. Little did anyone know, the man sitting there, overlooked by all, carried a history that could silence the bustling streets. Jacob shifted slightly on the bench, trying to warm his hands with his breath, as the cold seeped through his layers. The sound of approaching footsteps made him glance up. 2 police officers, one tall with a clean-shaven face, the other stockier with a stern expression, were walking purposefully toward him. "Sir," the taller officer said, his tone sharp, "you can't sit here all day. This is a public space, not a shelter." Jacob looked up, his face calm but weary. "I'm not bothering anyone," he replied quietly. The stockier officer crossed his arms, his tone laced with impatience. "That's not the point. People have complained about vagrancy in the area. You need to move along." Jacob started to speak, but thought better of it, sensing their disinterest in his explanation. The officers exchanged a glance, their demeanor growing more dismissive. Their voices, though not loud, carried enough to draw attention. A small group of bystanders began to form, some stealing curious glances, others shaking their heads in quiet judgment. "Do we need to escort you off the premises?" the taller officer asked, his voice firm. Jacob sighed deeply, reaching for his duffel bag, but his hand trembled slightly as he fumbled with the strap. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the cold air. Jacob took a deep breath, lifting his tired eyes to meet the officer's stern gazes. "I'm not causing any trouble," he said, his voice steady but soft. "I'm just sitting here, trying to get through the day." The taller officer scoffed, stepping closer. "We've heard it all before. Loitering is loitering. You can either move along now, or we'll take you to the station and sort it out there." Jacob tightened his grip on the strap of his duffel bag. "I've got nowhere to go," he admitted, his tone calm but edged with quiet frustration. "This bench is all I have right now." The stockier officer's patience was wearing thin. "Listen, we're not asking," he said sharply, taking a step forward. As Jacob stood up, his duffel bag slipped from his grasp and hit the ground. The zipper came undone, and the contents spilled out across the pavement. A hush fell over the scene as small, gleaming objects caught the light, a collection of military medals, neatly pinned to faded ribbons. Scattered among them were worn photographs of Jacob in uniform, standing tall and proud alongside his fellow soldiers. The officers froze, their tough demeanor momentarily replaced by confusion and disbelief. A murmur spread through the gathering bystanders, their judgment shifting to curiosity, even guilt. Jacob knelt down slowly, his hands trembling as he began to gather the precious items, his silence saying more than words ever could. The taller officer bent down and picked up one of the medals, turning it over in his hand. The golden emblem gleamed faintly in the morning light, its ribbon frayed but vibrant with stripes of color. His stern expression softened into puzzlement. "This is a bronze star," he said slowly, almost to himself. Jacob paused in gathering his belongings, not his hands resting on a faded photograph. He looked up at the officer, his face lined with years of hardship. "Yes," he said quietly. "I earned that in Kandahar." The other officer raised an eyebrow, his tone skeptical. "You're saying you were in the military?" Jacob nodded, his gaze distant as if seeing a world long past. 20 years of service. 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. That medal," he motioned toward the one in the officer's hand, "was for saving 3 of my brothers when our convoy was ambushed." The bustling street seemed to grow quieter as Jacob continued, his voice calm but filled with the weight of his memories. I gave everything I had for this country. But when I came back, I lost my wife, my home, and eventually myself. The officers exchanged glances, their previous authority now replaced with a mix of guilt and respect. Bystanders, too, stood in silence, their earlier judgment melting away as they absorbed Jacob's words. The taller officer finally spoke, his voice softer. I had no idea. I'm sorry. Jacob gave a small nod, his face unreadable. Not many people do, he said simply. The tension in the air shifted as the taller officer held the medal carefully, his stern demeanor melting into something softer. I'm sorry, he said, his voice quieter now. I didn't realize. The stockier officer looked down, a hint of regret in his expression. We didn't mean to. He paused, struggling for the right words. We didn't know. Jacob gave a faint smile, more out of weariness than forgiveness. Most people don't, he replied. He sat back on the bench, carefully gathering his medals and photographs, and took a deep breath. It's not just about serving overseas, it's what happens after. When I came back, I didn't come back the same. He looked down at the photograph in his hand, a younger version of himself in uniform, surrounded by his unit. I saw things, did things, that still keep me awake at night. PTSD, they call it, but it's more than that. It's the feeling that you don't belong anywhere anymore. The bystanders leaned in, their expressions softening as Jacob continued. I lost my family, my job, tried to get help, but the system's broken. You fight for your country, but when the war's over, the fight to survive starts all over again. The officers nodded slowly, the weight of his words sinking in. That's not right, the taller one murmured. A young woman in the crowd stepped forward, holding out a sandwich and a bottle of water. Thank you for your service, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Jacob looked at her surprised, and gave a small, grateful nod. Around him, the crowd's judgment had transformed into quiet respect. For the first time in a long while, Jacob didn't feel invisible. The taller officer took a deep breath and knelt beside Jacob, handing back the medal with care. I'm sorry for how we treated you, he said, his voice heavy with regret. You deserve better than this. Let me make it right. Jacob nodded, accepting the medal and tucking it carefully into his bag. Thank you, he said softly, his tone carrying the weight of someone unaccustomed to kindness. The stockier officer, still standing, chimed in. There are resources for veterans, organizations that can help with housing and support. If you're willing, we can help connect you with them. Jacob hesitated, then gave a faint nod. I'd appreciate that. It's hard to know where to start when you've lost so much. From the small crowd that had gathered, a young man stepped forward, holding out a paper bag and a coffee cup. Here, he said. It's not much, but I hope it helps. Others began to follow his lead. An older woman offered a blanket. A middle-aged man asked if Jacob needed a ride somewhere. The cold indifference that had marked their initial glances had transformed into warmth and compassion. As Jacob looked around, he saw not pity, but respect in their eyes. They didn't see a homeless man anymore. They saw a hero who had given so much for his country. The officers helped Jacob to his feet, promising to assist with the next steps. The crowd slowly dispersed, but the moment lingered. A powerful reminder of the humanity behind every face we pass by. For Jacob, it was a glimmer of hope, a sign that perhaps he hadn't been forgotten after all. As Jacob walked away with the officers, a faint spark of hope in his weary eyes, the bustling city seemed a little quieter, as if the weight of his story had settled on everyone who had witnessed it. This moment was more than just an encounter. It was a stark reminder of how quick we are to judge based on what we see on the surface. A tattered coat, a weathered face, or a life reduced to a park bench can never tell the full story of a person's journey. Jacob wasn't just a homeless man. He was a war hero who had sacrificed more than most of us could imagine. A man who gave everything for his country, but was left to fight a new battle alone when he returned. His story is not unique. Too many veterans return home to find themselves invisible, struggling to navigate a world that no longer feels like home. This story is a call for kindness, a reminder to look beyond appearances and show compassion to those who need it most. You never know the battles someone has fought or the burdens they carry. Because at the end of the day, humanity isn't measured by wealth, status, or outward success. It's measured by how we treat one another. Let's choose kindness, always. Thank you for watching this powerful story. If it resonated with you or opened your heart to a new perspective, we'd love your support. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that remind us of the strength of the human spirit. Like this video if it touched your heart, and let us know your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Your voice matters to us. Most importantly, if you believe this story can inspire or help someone else, please share it with your friends, family, and community. Together, we can spread compassion and awareness, one story at a time. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Your support makes all the difference.